Raider Nation, we are back. Let's get it. Welcome to the House of Hammer, built by the nation for the nation. Welcome to Raider Nation News today. Those coming on in, y'all know the routine. Those new to the channel, don't let it be your last. Break them thumbs, hammer that sub, smash the bell to stay up to date with all your Raiders news, rumors, updates, live streams, and reactions. We do have a very special guest returning to the vault. New York sports media legend himself, Bill Daughtry, is in the building. Let me bring him in right now for you guys. And there he is. Welcome back. And for those that are coming in, this is our Week 8 matchup preview. The New York Giants come to Sin City to face the Las Vegas Raiders. Bill, thank you so much for joining. How are you doing tonight?
Hammer, thanks for having me back. I'm doing great, man. I like our color coordination. It's kind of smooth.
In the words of the late John Witherspoon, we got to coordinate.
Coordinate. Mushroom belt, mushroom lining. Bang.
That's my guy. So a lot has transpired within the last 24, 36 hours. For those that are unaware or under a rock, the Raiders have fired Josh McDaniels, general manager Dave Ziegler, and offensive coordinator Mick Lombardi. In replacement right now for the interim period, former New York Giant linebacker Antonio Pierce is now the interim head coach. We have Champ Kelly, who is now the interim GM, and quarterbacks coach Bo Hardegree is now the offensive coordinator for us. Let's talk about Antonio Pierce. Look, you covered the Giants. You're a Giant fan. What are your thoughts on this happening, this promotion for Antonio Pierce?
I'm happy for him. And if he brings the same kind of fury he brought when he was playing linebacker for the Giants all those years ago, if he transfers that same energy to the Raider locker room, you guys will have a very interesting, I'm not going to call it bright yet, but a very interesting future. Unfortunately, you guys, when you had Rich Bisaccia in the building, you didn't hold on to him because he seemed to turn the tide there and had these guys playing with fury, playing with purpose, playing with passion, played right into the playoffs, even though you had a different quarterback back then with Mr. Carr and all that. But still, you didn't think that was good enough. You had to go out and get a guy who fell flat on his face when he was the head coach of the Denver Broncos. Even though he had Tim Tebow as his quarterback, I get it, but still, so hopefully Antonio Pierce is not just the short-term solution, but the long-term solution to what's going on in Raider Nation. And again, it's historically the Raiders, well, they had the greatest success when they promoted an unknown assistant, some guy named Madden. The rest was history. It's pretty much been hit and miss since through the Gannon years and Gruden and I mean, it's just been a march of alleged good coaches, but it just hasn't worked out for any number of reasons. And now Antonio Pierce is on the hot seat. It's interesting how everybody expects it to turn out. And I mean, talking the talk is one thing. And he said all the right things in the news conference. And like we said, that transference of emotion, that transference of detail, that transference of getting the players to be accountable. It's all good. But now he's going to run out there against with a rookie quarterback against a defense that is playing better with each passing week and an offense that gets the first string quarterback back in the lineup as opposed to the third string quarterback who was trying to get them through probably their best defensive showing of the season. I was in a hardware store today, had to order a couple of custom cut doors. And one of the guys sitting in the back of the store had on a Giant hat. I said, you encouraged about this weekend? Nah. I said, wait a minute. Are you kidding me? They got a new coach. They got a new GM. They got a rookie quarterback because the veteran, they don't believe in him. Your team is coming off of a solid defensive performance. Yeah, I get it. They had the third string quarterback, but the running back had Saquon Barkley had his best outing of the year, 126 yards. You can't argue with how the defense played. You actually saw some vestiges of run blocking. They were a one-handed team with a third string quarterback, and they took this game to overtime. And if it wasn't for the kicker's injured left knee, they might have won this game. And you're not encouraged? Hammer, I was telling you, man, this point spread, it is totally disrespectful.
Is it 1.5 now, or is it 2.5?
I don't even keep track of lines, but somebody said 1.5 earlier today. I said, wait a minute. Barkley had his best game of the season. The first string quarterback is coming back, so you're going to be a two-handed team. The team run blocked pretty well. And oh, by the way, you might be getting both of your tackles back this week. Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas are both expected to see action in this game.
So I'm looking at it now. I put some stuff together, and it's like you're talking about Barkley. Like, he's only rushed for one touchdown this year. He's accumulated 412 total yards. He's averaging 82.4 per game, 3.7 yards on average per carry. Like, yes, he had his best game last week. Jacobs has been in a downward spiral, but I also think
I was going to ask you about Josh Jacobs. You feel real good about him running the football against this Giant defense?
I don't want to say I don't feel good about him. I think that there's going to be some necessary adjustments that should have been made a long time ago. Now we don't have somebody that is restricting the offense or defensive side of the ball in regards to the play calling. Like Jacobs, he's averaging slightly less. He's averaging 3.4, which is 39th in the NFL right now, 51 yards per game. Total rushing yards is 408. 408 to Saquon's, 412? They're very, very similar. Both of these guys got their little franchise tags.
Oh, wait a minute now. Hold on. Saquon had an outstanding game against a staunch Buffalo defense in Buffalo. And then you saw what he did last Sunday when he was running against one of the better defenses. I'm not going to say they're the best, but one of the better defensive units in the NFL when they were a one-handed team playing with their third string quarterback. He was the only thing they had. And a lot of people took Brian Daboll to task because on that 4th and 1, where Gano missed the field goal, it would have put the thing away, that they didn't run Saquon on 4th and 1 in that spot instead of going for the field goal that Gano ultimately missed. But again, it's a one-handed team. Everybody in the state of New Jersey knew if they broke the huddle, it was going to be Saquon Barkley running the football.
Right.
And it's winning time for the Jets. It's like, shut this down. And I mean, I don't disagree with what Brian Daboll did. I don't disagree with a usually reliable Graham Gano, who, as I was telling you earlier today, came out that he might need surgery on his left knee. He's trying to gut it out and missed 2 important field goals for the New York Giants in that game. That, I'm not one of those guys who says people are crazy, they don't know what they're looking at. But again, the Giants were on their third string quarterback. DeVito the week before was on the practice squad. He had just been called up to back up Tyrod Taylor. earlier in the week. And then what happens to Taylor? He gets his ribs smashed up in the game in the second quarter of the game, and the Giants have to play a half of football, not letting the guy throw. It's just like you were talking about Adrian O'Connell. You saw him throw a touchdown pass in the preseason game. I did too. I saw DeVito throw a touchdown pass against the Detroit Lions in Detroit in the preseason. Boy, he looked good, but they wouldn't let him throw the football on Sunday. I wonder why.
Mm, Look, I think where we stand right now as it pertains to the quarterbacks, like this was another decision, not just who the interim head coach was going to be, but who the quarterback was going to be moving forward. Devontae Adams definitely had a lot to say. We've seen him vent his frustrations to the media, and a lot of times when he says things, of course the media wants to blow it out of proportion, but he's holding these guys accountable. Like this past Monday night, Jimmy Garoppolo starting at quarterback missed two perfect opportunities, two wide open opportunities to Tay. One would have been a 98-yard touchdown, the other would have been a 60-yard touchdown. Instead, we score one touchdown on offense, and we score with a pick six by Marcus Peters. Like, it was just something had to give finally. The terrible coaching decisions, terrible clock management, just boneheaded moves. You didn't want to start Aiden O'Connell against the Bears. You want to continue to stick with your guys and start Brian Hoyer, and we saw what that did. And then all of a sudden, 5.5 minutes left in the game, we're down 3 scores. Oh, okay, let's put Aiden O'Connell in. And he got that one touchdown pass to was it Jacoby? I can't even remember right now.
That's all right. That'll work.
But
But
it's
let
just
me ask you this.
go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you just went down a whole laundry list of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How's the Raiders' offensive line played this year? And I asked that question not knowing the answer, but I asked that question because I was on a television show here in New York City preseason talking about the prospects of the Jets and the Giants. This was before Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. This is before Daniel Jones gets his neck smashed up. I mean, this is everything is, all the boxes are checked. High hopes everywhere. But even on that show, the question that had to be asked or the point that had to be made was no team in the NFL can succeed without an adequate, doesn't have to be solid, but an adequate functional offensive line. That's why I asked that question about the Raiders, because Aiden O'Connell is going to be as good as the Raiders' offensive line.
So in regards to our offensive line, like right now we're not where we should be. The first 2 weeks of the season, they didn't give up a sack. Our quarterbacks weren't being touched. And then all of a sudden, things fell apart. Jermaine Illuminor had been benched for Thayer Mumford, who's in his second year, offensive lineman out of Ohio State. Thayer Mumford was on the heels for that right tackle spot last year. Van Roten, the former Jet, he has been abysmal. If you have a chance to look at any of the game film and look at the offensive line, Van Roten is that guy right now that is the weak link. And we thought Alex Bars was that guy at right guard last year, and bringing in a vet like Van Roten was going to change things. No, same thing. We went into this season with Illuminor and Colton Miller being the top 10 best tackle tandem in the league. And again, I don't know if it has to do with or had to do with restrictions placed by McDaniels telling Brasillo, telling these linemen what to do or what not to do. And same thing goes with the quarterback. Like, oh, don't throw it to this guy, or not really utilizing what was working last year. You weren't utilizing the run game the first 4 weeks of the season last year. Then all of a sudden, Josh Jacobs goes off and becomes the league leading rusher. You go into this season and it's like you're steering away from things that work. The I formation, having Jakob Johnson being the anchor for Josh Jacobs on those run plays, all of a sudden you were steering away from that. A couple of times you were running like a pistol formation. When has the Patriots offensive scheme ever run a pistol formation. Like, and then just the passing game. Again, we're not the Patriots, but they were really going by the Patriot way. The two-headed monster of the tight ends you had back in New England with Aaron Hernandez and Gronk. You brought in a former two-time Pro Bowl tight end in Austin Hooper. You drafted one of the top prospect tight ends in Michael Mayer out of Notre Dame and are hardly utilizing these guys. Like, a lot of things just did not add up. They don't add up. And I think that was another reason why our offensive woes have been the way they've been. Like, I really feel that McDaniels had some type of restriction on this offense and was just constantly dictating what he wanted. Ultimately, Mick Lombardi was not the guy calling the plays. It was Josh McDaniels.
I'll buy all of that, but I'll bet you dollars to donuts that whatever decisions McDaniels made was based on that offensive line. If the O-line ain't cooking, you got problems.
Of course.
The Giants on Sunday will start their 8th offensive line combination of the season.
In nine games.
And the only thing, that's why the quarterbacks are getting killed. But again, the only encouraging thing is that this week, both Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas, who got a $117 million contract the day after the Giants franchised Saquon Barkley. Saquon made a lot of people rich last year. He really did. Okay. They give Andrew Thomas $117 million. And in that Dallas blowout of the Giants, a field goal got blocked, and Thomas trying to chase down one of Dallas's guys is a hamstring injury that's kept him sidelined since the first week of the season. He's having a good week in practice. He's been a participant in practice, as has Neal, and they expect to get both of those guys back. And in Thomas's absence, Neal was a turnstile, bro. He really was.
Yeah.
I go back to that game against Seattle. They were a sieve. It was embarrassing. So again, if that O-line ain't there, I don't care who you are, it's not going to work for you on offense.
One of my guys in the chat, and I'm sorry to cut you off. One of my guys in the chat, John Corrigan, he brings a valid point to this as well. Like, we steered away from zone run scheme to power, and the O-line is clearly a zone blocking line. Like, there you have it right there. So again, with the change of the guard yesterday, and a guy that doesn't have the experience as an offensive coordinator, maybe, and you and I just had this conversation off air, and you mentioned Pat Riley. He was a coach that played to his players' strengths. Maybe these guys now finally see the light now that they don't have this dictator behind them all the time and play to these guys' strengths moving forward.
I don't disagree with that, and I hope that that's the case, but you're starting an untested quarterback. The playbook is going to be somewhat limited. I mean, the OC is going to have enough sense to figure out, okay, what's good for this kid? What works for this kid? What's the best light I can put Aiden O'Connell in? But then it's up to that O-line to protect them.
Right.
It's up to Jacobs to run the football effectively. And let me flash back a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, you guys opened the season against Buffalo, correct? In Buffalo.
That was our second game of the season. We opened up against Denver, and that was a terrible game. We won by the skin of our teeth.
But you won.
Yes.
And then you go up to Buffalo. And if I'm not mistaken, in that game, I think you guys took an early 10 or 14-0 lead.
10. And we ended up losing 38-10.
What happened?
Steering away from what worked. That's been the ongoing thing with Josh McDaniels, because we had the same issues last year. You had these leads at halftime, you steered away from what worked, and then all of a sudden have these second half collapses, and we finished 6-11. We could have been a hell of a lot better than that. Like, a lot of those games, we realistically could have been a 12-5, 11-6 team had we not had those second half collapses.
So you come into Sunday's game with a 3-5 record.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Giants would take that 3-5 record, but you have ripped it down to the studs now. Is this indicative of what the rest of this season is going to be like? Because all the chat is here in New York is that Devontae is coming to the Jets in March, so he can be with his boy Aaron Rodgers again. Which
Are
is a whole
you are
other
you on
conversation.
on that train, Bill? Are you
No, I'm
on that
not.
train?
I'm not. I'm not. I'm not big on reunions. I really am not. I mean, what's the whole reason Devontae Adams wound up with the Raiders in the first place?
Car.
Because he was going to play with his boy.
Yeah. And
So
he did thank McDaniels and Ziegler in the press conference this afternoon for giving them the opportunity, whatever. We know realistically how he really feels, but I'm not going to
He's
get
still
into
getting a
that.
check. He's still
But
getting a check.
look, again, for him to be able to have the voice and the say as a leader of that locker room, to ultimately have a say in who the interim head coach should be and who he wants as his quarterback moving forward, speaks volumes. And I know they're going to do everything to continue to keep this man happy. I don't see him being traded, especially not to the New York Jets. I've heard the rumblings over the last few days that, there's reports out there that the Jets reached out to Tampa for Mike Evans and the Raiders for Devontae Adams, and pretty much the response was, there's not a chance in hell we're trading Devontae.
Here's the thing.
Go
Here's the
ahead.
thing. I mean, this ain't fantasy football. This is the NFL. And the possibility or the probability of Adams coming to New York to play for the Jets so he can be with his boy Aaron Rodgers again. Well, let's see if Aaron Rodgers can get back. I mean, yeah, I get it. Dropbacks and making these nice little cute throws on the sideline. That's a whole different monster from having a 275, 300-pound guy trying to rip your body apart.
I'm not buying it.
Ball club.
I'm not buying it right now that
You
everybody's
know, I,
like they're really dragging this to the ground right now too. Like, oh, he'll be back if they make the playoffs. He'll be back before the season. You're bugging. You tore your Achilles. I know the advances in sports medicine, but apparently he's also said some weird things in regards to his treatment, and it is what it is. But
well,
I'm not holding my breath
he's
on him coming back by the end of the season.
the other side of it is he's 40 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're seeing is real nice, but I'm not buying into the hype. I'm not. Like right now, not to change the subject, Zach Wilson is quarterback in the New York Jets, and wherever they go, they're going with him and Trevor Siemian, who will at some point be activated. But I mean, this Aaron Rodgers stuff to me is a pipe dream, and it's an even bigger pipe dream that Devontae Adams will be traded and will be reunited with his guy. I mean, how many championships did they win together? How long ago was that?
That was a long time ago.
So I'm not a reunion guy, not unless I'm putting together guys who have won titles before, like Gronk and Brady did down in
Right.
Tampa Bay a couple years
Right.
ago. Something like that. I got it.
Shout out to John Corrigan again in the chat with the $4.99 super chat. Appreciate you, brother. This question's for you, Bill. Can you touch on the loss of Big Cat Leonard Williams on the defensive side of the ball and Daniel Jones throwing most of his interceptions on hurries and out routes?
The Williams part first.
Mm-hmm.
Leonard Williams, throughout his NFL career, has been a guy who ties up traffic, who ties up the other offensive line because they commit resources to him, then it makes other guys better. He's never been the guy. He's never been the guy that you gotta stop. He's got 1.5 sacks. I mean, and really, who's taking his place? A Sean Robinson? Huh? Who? The guys on the Giant defensive line right now, Sexy Dexy, Dexter Lawrence, number 92, and and Kayvon Thibodeau. Those are the guys that you have to scheme for, plan for, not Big Cat. And that's no disrespect to him because he's had a solid NFL career.
Mm-hmm.
He's had a solid NFL career being that other guy. Not the guy you got to plan for, but the guy you got to make sure you just keep him in check so everybody doesn't go bananas. He'll do well in Seattle. He's a veteran player. He'll fit into that scheme very nicely. Pete Carroll's all about defense anyway. So he'll be okay there. But I don't think this is some insurmountable loss. This is a player the Giants are going to probably lose at the end of the year anyway. They weren't going to re-sign him.
No.
So they send him and his money to a place where he can have a modicum of happiness and compete for something. If the Giants had traded Saquon Barkley, okay, now we got something going on here.
Do you think there's a chance? Do you think there's a chance that Saquon does come back? Do you think he gets that contract extension this coming off season?
I think he gets enough to stay there because Saquon has been very vocal about it. Mm-hmm. He likes it here. He wants to be here. His family is here, not just his immediate family, but his extended family. The day before he signed, had the opportunity to run into his uncle, former boxer Iran Barkley. We were at a golf outing, and they were trying to get Iran in our group, but they couldn't because we were full, blah, blah, blah. But we had a nice conversation about Saquon. One of the guys says, you need to tell your nephew to say, dude, you can't tell a grown man what to do, especially when it's his money. That's not going to happen, But and then in the next breath, Iran said, he did say no to $30 million, though. So, Saquon is made his bed. He has performed admirably when he's on the field. And I mean, his style of running, he's all out on every play, man. He's trying to get to the end zone on every play. And so sometimes that puts him in a compromised position. But I think he's worth the money, even though the trend in the NFL is pay running backs cheap. It's just like Dalvin Cook. He's rumbling about getting out of New York now.
I saw that. I'm not surprised either.
Well, look, when Dalvin was trying to do something when he was leaving Minnesota, did you see teams lined up to get him?
Nope.
No. The best offers he was getting is, you can be my backup to this guy. Miami was supposed to be thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
But Dalvin still feels in his heart of hearts that he could be the lead guy. He can't even be the lead guy on the Jets. Breece Hall is lighting the world up. Dalvin Cook's not running away from anybody. He can't cut back like he used to, or at least he hasn't shown that this year. He reminds me a little bit of a slower truck horse, man. He's more of a fullback than a halfback now.
Wow.
He really is. What are the Jets using him for? Short yardage.
Yep.
Short yardage situations. I mean, you really see him usurping Breece Hall?
No. And look, I kind of got it when he was brought in that, like, realistically, this is Breece's team moving forward. They were just letting him reacclimate after the torn ACL injury last season.
Yes.
And look, the dude is back to the Breece that we saw in his rookie year.
Went back to Denver and handled his business, left his mark.
Mm-hmm.
And now, what was the other? There was a second part to that question.
Daniel Jones throwing most of his interceptions on hurries and out routes.
We haven't seen Daniel Jones in 3 weeks. And I go back to what I said before. When in doubt, go back to that O-line. Except for a half of football against the Arizona Cardinals, who are also a team in flux.
Rebuild.
Daniel Jones has been running for his life all season long. When the kid had time to stand in the pocket and throw last year, you saw what happened. Super Bowl, world beater. No, Giants ain't there yet. He did more with less. This year, he has more to work with in theory, but his offensive line has been woeful. And he had to sit out 3 weeks because he re-injured his neck. Remember that happened a couple of years ago against San Diego, and it cost him the rest of the season. People want to read stuff into, Daboll doesn't like him, blah, blah, blah. Brian Daboll won with this guy last year.
It was the best
He
year
got
that
into
it
the
was the best year
playoffs
that Jones had in his career once
and
Daboll
won a
came in.
road playoff game. Did
Yeah.
he get stupid all of a sudden? No. His $117 million left tackle got hurt in the first game of the year, and the right tackle was a sieve. And then other guys started getting injured. So how many offensive line combinations is going to be?
8 in the first 9 weeks.
That's not a success. That's not a recipe for success for a quarterback in the NFL. It's not. Just ain't.
Hold on. There was something that we were talking about before that kind of just got my attention. As I was thinking about it. Oh my goodness. We were talking about something just now in regards to the quarterback. Oh, we talked about it off air. And I said I wanted to address it. The whole situation that happened over the weekend in regards to his neck injury by Daniel Jones, and Daniel Jones not being cleared Friday, but apparently was cleared Sunday. And
before the game, but the coach didn't know about it.
Yeah, like can you shed some light on that for us, please? Because I'm still confused.
I just have to take Brian Daboll at his word. He was cleared, but nobody told him he was cleared until after the game, or maybe he didn't make himself available to hear it until after the game. I mean, look, the Giants, with the exception of a couple of bonehead plays in the red zone at the goal line against Buffalo, they moved the football very well under Tyrod Taylor. They did everything but score with Tyrod Taylor.
Right.
And with the state of the offensive line being what it was, Tyrod running for his life, but making those nice drop in the bucket passes to Hyatt.
Well, that's really the only receiver you guys have now. The guy that we sent off to you guys in Waller.
The old hamstring is disruptive again. And this looks like it might take a while.
Surprised he's not making music since he's not playing right now.
He's Fats Waller's great grandson, by the way.
Is he really?
Yeah.
I did not know. Wow. I did not know that.
So in an interview, he talked about being Fats Waller's great grandson. And of course, his wife now with the champion Aces in the WNBA. And it's just wonderful. But again, and this is funny, because even though Waller had been nursing this hamstring all week long and everybody knew about it, well, he goes out and plays on Sunday. And what happens?
Hamstring. I keep telling, look, I know from experience, I had torn my hamstrings twice. And
oh, no.
I just had this conversation with somebody the other day about it because I thought about it. And, a lot of injuries seem to happen more on turf than grass. The 2 times that I tore them, they happened on turf. And I'm just like, that makes it's weird because it took me years to really sit down and assess and realize, but I'm like, I was playing on turf those 2 times. Growing up, it was grass. And then all of a sudden, everybody wants to have a turf field. That turf is unforgiving.
Consider this, and this is when it first hit me, with Ken Griffey and Ken Griffey Sr., Jr. and Sr. Jr. played most of his career on that rock-hard AstroTurf in that dirt-cheap Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time he got to the Yankees and the Braves teams that were grass teams, his knees were like just beat to garbage.
Yeah.
Okay. But he still managed to gut it out and had a nice finish to his career. Now, fast forward, Junior's in Seattle, playing on that same rock hard surface at the Kingdome. And then he goes to Cincinnati, where his dad played. And what do you know? Coming home, sliding in the home plate, tears his hamstring, and he's really never the same player after that.
Mm-hmm. One of my all-time favorites. The reason I grew up playing center field as a kid, like that was heartbreaking for me.
Yeah, you ain't got a center fielder's body. I was a center fielder.
You have height, but I grew up playing center field. I grew up playing center field and catcher.
Okay.
Griffey and Piazza were my two all-time favorites, and the reasons I played the positions I did growing up. I had that
Actually, my
speed.
cheekbones
I had
don't
that
catch.
speed, and I had that Griffey batting stance. Everybody was like, "Wait,
All right.
what?"
But I'll tell you who was a better defensive center fielder than Ken Griffey Jr. And to me, Willie Mays is 1 and Junior is 1A, but defensively, Paul Blair was as good maybe as both of them. Paul Blair could go get it. And I mean, he used to play like right behind the shortstop, and he just run everything.
That's just insane.
Everything. Gap to gap, going back, coming in. I mean, Paul Blair was just a monster.
Shout out
Paul
to
L.D. Blair.
Shout out to GA Patriot on the 499 Super. Waller's been nursing that hamstring for 3 years. At least he's not out there dropping TDs. Damn.
Wow. Wow.
Hold on, do we have that sound effect? I might as well just drop that bomb.
Sound of Waller dropping 6.
This was the thing though. Like everybody was so hyped, at least in the New York media outlets. It was like, oh, like pretty much he was the best receiver you guys have. But it's like you just got a tight end on the wrong side of 30 that continues to have this ongoing injury. Like I don't know what you guys were so excited about, but now you see why we did what we did. Like, and I think you guys are stuck with him now for another 2 years on that extension that we gave him.
And more importantly, I'm not sure the Giants signed a tight end this week. I haven't seen it. And Bellinger is their only real tight end right now.
God help you guys. Shout out
Bellinger was good
to
last year until he took a finger in the eye, and that changed his season.
shout out to Terry Russell, the president of the Jersey Shore Raider Booster Club. We will see you Sunday for our live stream. And Terry is the one that brought me and Bill together. So thank you.
Hi, Terry. Hi, Terry. That was at the golf outing that I saw Iran Bar.
Nope. Guys, if you have any questions in the chat, come on, man. Feel free to ask. We might, Bill, you up for a little nostalgia? Maybe we take some calls?
Sure.
Let's,
Good.
let me get this set up real quick. Let's get this going. Where is it on here?
I've got an event in New York City on, I think it's the 13th of November for the Dr. Richard Barnett Foundation. And I'm going to be with a who's who of New York sports icons.
Uh-oh.
My man Walt Clyde Frazier is going to be there. Senator Bill Bradley is going to be there. And one Lawrence Taylor.
Nice.
So
where is it? It's under social? I think it is under social. All right, I'm going to put it in the chat for you guys. And of course, we're screening calls because we don't mess around in here. You know, it's always real Raiders content.
Be polite.
Please.
Act like your mama raised you.
We got a legend in here, so be respectful, guys. But you guys have it up on the screen, and I'll put it on the main screen for you guys to see. Call into the SeatGeek Vault line, 347-471-0361 if you have any questions for myself or Bill pertaining to this Week 9 matchup preview that we are doing. Feel free to call on in, and we'll be taking your calls for a few minutes. So sound off.
It's not a big thing. I can't see any of the comments for whatever reason. They're just not showing up for me.
We're doing we have a display capture, so the main source that we're using is OBS, so it doesn't necessarily show because I'm using StreamYard and putting it on OBS for the look because of the production. Once you get a chance to look back at it, you're going to be like, wait a second, this is not what I saw when I was a guest the first time around.
When I go back and look on YouTube, okay.
You're going to be like, this is not what the production looked like my first go around with Hammer.
All right. You're doing good. You're doing fine.
Let me make sure. We do have it up and running, guys. I don't think, do not disturb is off. So guys, call on in. I know John wanted to try to get in on this as well. And if not, you guys can ask your questions in the chat as well. Let me just double check. Yeah, we're good. It's good to go. Now, we talked about these numbers, not well, a little bit, but not too much. But in regards to the stats as it stands right now, your Giants passing yards, their ranking is 32nd, rushing yards 15th, averaging 112.8. They have 902 on the year. Points scored 11.9, which is dead last in the league. Pass yards against 211.5, which is 12th. Rush yards 24th, average is 127.4. Points allowed is 23.4, which is 22nd. For the Raiders, passing yards 22nd in the league at 198.3. Rushing yards 70 a game, which is dead last. Offensive line again. And I hope things change this weekend. Points scored 15.8, which is 27th. Passing yards against 197, which is ninth in the league. So the pass defense isn't too bad. Rushing yards against is 30th with 140.6. It's like the ongoing theme where our run defense just can't seem to hold their own. And points allowed 22nd at 23.4. So
And how many yards did Saquon run for last week
126.
against a quality defense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Terry said that you should come to Bar A on Sunday.
Uh, uh, Thanks, Terry, but I've got other commitments. But thank you anyway. Appreciate invites. Invites are great.
Shout out to GA Patriots. So many unknowns going into this game. I don't even know what question to ask right now.
Again, the knowns are you just ran down some numbers. Raiders are 30th in the league in rush yards allowed. They are 30th in points scored. 21 is their best for any game this year, and they're 31st in yards allowed. So I said that point and a half is disrespectful.
I do think we finally put up more than 20 points this week. I do.
Okay.
Your
Don't
name
hang your
here. Your name here asks, what did Bill think about the firing of Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels?
I didn't think a lot about it, but nothing surprises me in sports anymore. I agree with you. Nothing surprises or overwhelms me when it comes to professional sports anymore. Nothing. That it happened when
Uh,
your team was 3-5. Like I said, I mean, it's like, okay, I get it. You're pulling the plug on the season now.
We got John Corrigan on the vault line. John, what's good, brother?
What's going on, Hammer? Always good to talk to you. Good to meet you, Mr. Daughtry.
What's up,
glad
John?
to see another fellow fan of hanging in there. Glad to see another fellow fan of a team that you probably watched your whole life and are diehard of. So as we look at both of these teams and the matchup that's coming up this weekend, obviously we're in a battle of I guess the only way you could say it is terrible execution teams. You guys are 2-6. We're 3-5. How can I put this? What do you think are the three keys to your success? And what do you think are the three keys to your demise as a Giants fan? And that same question for Hammer after you answer.
So I've hit on it several times in this program. It's all about the offensive line for the New York Giants. Saquon Barkley coming off of a fine game where the Giants were a one-handed team with their third-string quarterback. Well, now the reinforcements have apparently arrived. They're getting back both offensive tackles and their quarterback, their first-string quarterback. So the Giants should be able to throw the football, but job number one, offensive line. Job number two, the defense has to play at least as well as they did last week against the New York Jets. And they played a pretty daggone good game there. And what the heck, I might as well cover the third side of it, special teams, because that's where you get surprises. That's where you get turnovers. That's where you get missed kicks. That's where all of a sudden somebody runs a ball back that wasn't supposed to be run back. So those are the three areas that I'm focused on for the Giants. If they excel in at least two of the three, I think they'll be all okay. And the two that they have to excel in for me are the offensive line and their defense has to play well against a rookie quarterback for Vegas. Pardon me.
Okay. Would you say that the demises then would be one of those three not working, or two of those three not working for you?
Two of those three, you're toast. I think they could get away with. For instance, look at what happened against the Jets. They were one-handed offensively. They were playing with their third-string quarterback, and then they're one of the most dependable, reliable people on their special teams missed two chip shot field goals, and it cost them a game. Their defense played well.
Yeah.
Their defense got after it.
Yeah.
So if you can get
Fair
two
enough.
sides of the triangle, you got a pretty fair shot of winning.
I appreciate that, Mr. Daughtry. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
John, for the Raiders, offensive line has to turn it around, and I'm hoping that the change of the guard we're gonna see the offensive line or something similar to what we saw last year, especially when it comes to the run blocking game. We got to establish that run. We got to establish that run early. That passing game. I want to see everybody involved now. I want to see both tight ends involved. I want to see Hunter Renfrow involved now, especially when it comes to third down situations. We know we coined that phrase a long time ago, third and Renfrow. I want to see him get involved. Defensively,
Trey Tucker.
Trey Tucker needs to get involved as well, and so does DeAndre Carter. Like, DeAndre Carter should not be just a special teams piece. Granted, he's done a very solid job in regards to his average return yards, but I think he needs to be utilized a lot more, especially on some of those down and distance situations as well as the red zone. That's a big body receiver that should be able to come down with the ball, especially on 50-50s. Defensively, we have to get out of this 4-2-5 and stop relying on a zone defense. We did sign Jalen Smith, another former New York Giant, which I definitely want to. I meant to ask you about that before, Bill, and we'll touch on that in a minute. But I think we're going to see the defense moving around. We're going to see a lot more different looks. We're not going to be stuck in a 4-2-5 zone time in, time out. Like, I want to see maybe this move, we could potentially see the potential of rookie Tyree Wilson that hasn't exactly been tapped yet. I know it's week 9.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have already had their thoughts and feelings about him, and he's a bust, da-da-da-da-da. We've talked about how he was not there throughout OTAs, how he wasn't there throughout training camp, and was just getting his feet wet to start the season, where that shouldn't have happened yet. But the unfortunate circumstances of Chandler Jones and his bad decision-making is why Tyree got thrown into the fire and not being 100% ready to go yet. So I think our demise is going to be our offensive line if they can't get it together. And hopefully, and I'm hoping this is not the case, Aiden doesn't get rattled. Like, we've seen him in the preseason, and again, that's the preseason. That game against the Chargers, he really was thrown to the wolves, was sacked 6 times, 3 fumbles, 2 lost. But he tried to dust himself off in that second half and try to rally this team back. And I do believe that everybody in that locker room is trusting him right now and behind him 1,000% and are ready to see what he's capable of doing for this offense moving forward.
Hammer, let me ask you an objective question.
Go ahead.
Charger defense better than the Giant defense?
No, because you guys seem to stay a hell of a lot healthier. Realistically.
Okay. I'm just asking for a friend.
Mac was a different being on that game. He was a different human being.
Hey, he was going against his old team. Come on, man.
Absolutely.
Raiders and Bears,
So
lights up.
3 last points, and I'll let you guys go. I really, really want to see Trey Tucker with his speed and elusiveness, because you see it after a catch. He's either going up to get a contested one or he can get away from his defender. I'd love to see him on punt and kick return. Give Andre Carter a break, maybe give him 50-50 chances and see what happens. But I really think Trey Tucker could be a spark plug on special teams as a punter kick returner. Second point.
Hold on. I'll let you get back to your point, but with Trey Tucker, and I don't mean to cut you off, with Trey Tucker, I thought that Trey Tucker, when he was drafted, that he was going to be that special teams guy for us, and then implemented here and there on the offense as well. So I'm kind of surprised that they don't have him on either end, whether being kick returner or punt returner. But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him get a couple of reps as a return man at some point now as well.
Didn't the Giants send somebody like that to Kansas City last year?
Who was it?
Kadarius
Scored a
Toney? Touchdown in the Super Bowl, yeah.
Kadarius Toney, Mr. Feet for Hands.
How's that worked out?
Oh yeah, brick hands. I believe our pick has a lot better hands than Kadarius Toney could ever wish to have.
You may be right.
You may be right. Same kind of stuff. In terms of Aiden O'Connell, the half that we did see him go in, sacked 6 times, fumbled twice or 3 times, I think.
3 times, lost it twice.
But he was one play away. He was one play away, Hammer, from winning the game in the end.
Yep.
You can't take that away from that man after being hit that many times, knocked down that many times, and losing that many footballs. He was one play away.
You're 1,000% correct. I guess McDaniels didn't learn his lesson after winning that Super Bowl against Seattle. Should have just ran the damn ball.
Jimmy's been given full quarters, and he's never been one play away from winning a football game except for the first one, pretty much. I mean,
there was a Super Bowl game that if he had made one long pass, he might still be in San Francisco.
Yeah. And I'd like to see, the last point was, I'd like to see a NASCAR package on the defensive side of the football. We always run 2 straight up true defensive tackles. We always got Max on one side. We like to interchange with Kuntz and Tyree. But I'd like to see Max. I don't know who the fourth would be. That's the problem. Probably Max, Hillary, Tyree Wilson, and Malcolm Kuntz all on the same line doing a NASCAR package in certain plays. That would be phenomenal. Now you have speed and some elusiveness at every position.
I wouldn't mind that at all, and I talked about this before the season started because I know a lot of you guys had asked and given your thoughts and your ideas on what you think a really good NASCAR package would have been. And I don't know if you noticed last weekend, well, at least throughout the season, Max has been utilized in ways that we never saw before. And this past weekend, or this past game, he was actually switching sides at the defensive end with Tyree Wilson. And I was a little stunned by that. I'm just like, wait a second, like we're trying something different and I like it, but it's just like which one of these ends is it benefiting? Like, are they trying to tinker around with Tyree and see which side he's better on? But I do believe as an end at Texas Tech, his primary side was the right side. So I guess they were just trying to experiment with it. But the NASCAR package, again, I think we're going to see some things that we haven't seen this entire season. And it's going to make a lot of the nation wonder what the is going on. Like, why weren't we doing this before?
I think it's interesting. It's taken us 55 minutes before we mention Max Crosby's name. I'm just saying.
Mr. Daughtry, it really boils down to this will be an experimental game for us. Either it works out really well or you guys kick the snot out of us. But either way, best of luck to both of you. I appreciate you guys on the show, and I'll let you get to the next caller.
Take care,
appreciate
John.
You.
Always a pleasure, man. Talk to you soon.
55 minutes before we mention the best player on defense for the team.
Because there's
not bode well.
You know why? Because there's not much that needs to be said about Mad Max. We know the type of dog he is, and we know what he brings to the field, and that energy within itself is an energy that he tries to rally his guys around him on defense. There's just certain things here and there that have not gone right. We brought in Robert Spillane via free agency. And again, Spillane was a guy that I had said signing him was not, in my opinion, the sexiest signing when it came to a linebacker in free agency. But look, you had a guy that was undrafted, that had a hell of a career, in Antonio Pierce that really has brought this kid around, and we've seen the success of Spillane as he's leading the team in tackles this season. I'm pretty sure he leads the team in interceptions right now as well, having those two. What was that, Monday night against the Packers a couple of weeks ago? He's definitely doing his thing right now, and I'm incredibly happy about that. Somebody X7608 has a question. Do you think either of your starting tackles can block Mad Max?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Uh-oh. That was straight to the point.
Yeah, I do. I'm not saying that Max Crosby comes out with 0 sacks, but he's got 6.5 going in. Maybe the question is, can your O-line block Thibodeau and block Sexy Dexy?
Oh. I think right now, especially with the loss of Big Cat, we may want to run the ball up the gut a little bit more because Dexter Lawrence might not be able to get there all the time now.
And that's not a bad analogy. That's not a bad approach to take when you've got that rookie quarterback under center. You want to take some of the heat off of him. You want to maybe take a throw or two out of the game that he doesn't have to make or doesn't have to run for his life. But again, if you're going to establish that run, well, Jacobs better be on fire coming out of that tunnel.
You know what's crazy? Like the game against Monday night, and the game was not bad. Like they were very, very close majority of the time. But again, our run game, we gave up way too many yards to Jahmyr Gibbs. But that one drive in the third quarter, I believe it was like an 11-play drive in which we Josh Jacobs punched in the 3-yard touchdown run, the only offensive touchdown of the game, may I add. But they had Jacobs heavily involved, and a lot of those run plays were right up the gut. And Detroit does not have a bad defense.
No, they don't.
I think Jacobs with that. I think that game and that drive was more of like. And I know we're 8 weeks in now. This is week 9, but that looked more of a tune-up, and that was the Jacobs that we were seeing so much of last year. North-south runner, a bulldozer. You don't need to do the east-west. Find a hole and just shoot through the hole and make plays. Like, keep moving those legs until you hear the whistle blow. But I think that we're going to see something more, a lot more, than we've seen out of Josh Jacobs throughout this entire season come this Sunday.
No, I hope you're wrong, but I mean, it wouldn't be out of the realm of, possibility. And by the way, I've been the first football game, the first NFL football game I ever went to was at Yankee Stadium in New York. It was the Giants against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I sat in the bleachers. My old man had me out there. Bobby Lane was quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was at the end of his career, no face mask, all that. I was about 7 or 8 years old. So when it comes to New York football, I'm about the Giants. I'm also about the Jets. But when the Jets and Giants play each other, I tend to root for the Giants. Although last Sunday, I was rooting for the Jets to win that game because it had more value to the season for them to win the game. Of the two New York teams right now, who's most likely to get into the playoffs?
The Jets.
Okay. And I laid that out before. They still have 3 games with the teams that are in front of them in their division. And they won one of those games.
Right.
Their defense is playing better. And if you're going to beat Miami, Buffalo gave you the blueprint. They're smack them around, man. And you got to run the football against them. And those are 2 things that the Jet defense is very able to do. I'm not sitting here saying they're going to beat Miami twice. Not saying that at all. I'm not even saying they're going to beat Miami once. But for the way the teams are constructed, and as Robert Saleh has said repeatedly, we're going to be in every game because of that defense. So, I mean, That's why I was leaning Jets on Sunday, especially when I saw they had a chance to win. I said, the Giants, they win this game. What are they?
3-5.
3-5, and the Jets were going over 500 with a win.
Right.
So, I mean, if the Giants had won, I wouldn't have been disappointed. I've never been disappointed with a Giant victory. But looking at the trajectory of the two seasons from the vantage point of a New York football fan, if the Giants had won, you weren't getting as much mileage out of it as you get when the Jets win. Because that Jet narrative now is, still alive and well. I'm not buying the Aaron Rodgers stuff, but as we discussed earlier. But just looking at what they have, and their schedule is getting easier. And I mean, they embarrassed Jalen Hurts and the Eagles.
Yeah.
Embarrassed them. They were one play away from beating Pat Mahomes. You give up a 3rd and 22 in your building because everybody is in single coverage and turn their back on the quarterback, and he makes it. That's the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the fumble. It's that 3rd and 22.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot to be encouraged about the Jets. The Giants, I'd like to see them win as many games as they can. But, I mean, let's be realistic. 2-6, where are they going? When you've got arguably two of the best 3 teams in their division in front of them in the Dallas Cowboys
and Philly.
Yeah.
Nick has a question for you. What do you think of Jalen Smith? He was a former Giant, a Pro Bowl or Super Bowl winner, just signed with the Raiders. What do you think of this signing?
I mean, Jalen Smith, what is this? His 5th team in like 6 years?
Yep.
Is he a difference maker?
You tell me. He was with you guys for a little bit.
I mean, he was with the Giants for 2 years. Cowboys, Packers, Giants, Saints, Raiders. Since 2016, which one of those teams has won an NFL championship?
True.
Since 2016, which one of those NFL teams had a deep playoff run?
Do you think
that kind of takes care of the difference maker thing right there?
Do you think that this was a signing that was something that was more for Patrick Graham, like a familiar face at the linebacking core? Because our linebacking depth chart has been very, very thin, and we do have this injury currently with Divine Diablo, but we haven't really heard anything in regards to a timetable when he's coming back. We had Luke Masterson out there this past Monday night, and Masterson was a guy that I was like, oh, he's going to have a breakout year. Obviously, he's not starting right now, but like I don't feel that he did that much this past week. So I'm thinking maybe it's just to add depth.
Jalen Smith is a guy who can make your room better, but is he a difference maker? No.
Okay. Fair enough.
Are the Raiders are the fortunes of the Raider defense going to change in a mighty way now that he's there? Do the Giants have to plan for him?
No.
And see, when you're talking pack teams and tail end teams, if the guy's not a difference maker, okay, he's a roster enhancer.
Mm-hmm.
He makes a position a little bit better. But again, the litany of teams that he's played on, like I said, has there been a deep playoff run by any of those teams? And the team that he's coming to is already 3-5, and they've pulled the plug on their season.
You got a lot of Raider fans in here that are like so angry when they hear that.
I mean, look, it's what your guys did.
But we saw this movie 2 years ago. The GM wasn't fired at the time, but look, 2 years ago, Henry Ruggs, his unfortunate circumstance, John Gruden being fired, the passing of the great John Madden, Raider in peace. And now this year we had the the loose screw that was Chandler Jones. You have Josh McDaniels and Ziegler fired 2 days ago. Like I said this on the show with my big bro last night. Who's to say the history doesn't repeat itself with 9 games left? We don't go on somewhat of a run and maybe sneak in as a wild card team.
What does your schedule look like?
We got the Giants, we got the Jets, we have the Chiefs, Chiefs, Dolphins, Chargers, Colts, Broncos,
Well,
Vikings.
let's stop at the Chiefs, the Dolphins, and the Chargers.
Mm-hmm.
2 of those games are division games.
Correct.
Kansas City is just getting better, even though they just lost in Denver this past week, short week, and all that kind of stuff. Kansas City seems to, and I mean, Jones is back and Jones is rounded into shape now. So their defense is better. They're trying to shore up their wide receiver situation, and they arguably have the best quarterback or one of the best 3 quarterbacks in the game. You ain't beating them. The days of the Raiders Chiefs rivalry, that don't exist right now. Okay? It doesn't. I mean, Raider fans get a little fired up. Hey, they're not even in Oakland anymore, Hammer. That's when it was real. That's when they were breaking faces and changing rules and stuff.
I think right now, though, as it stands, especially with having a guy that's from that area, was an LA Raiders fan from the time he was a kid, now at the helm as a head coach, as interim head coach, like I think the culture is going to change and change dramatically right now. I really do. I think that energy is what this team's needed, and I do believe that we're going to see the Raiders.
Antonio Pierce can't play no more.
Okay? I get that. But Max is out there, and Max will put the hurt on you.
Max is arguably your best defensive player. I mean, the Raiders come down to 3 players. They come down to Crosby, they come down to Adams, they come down to Jacobs. Mm-hmm. You got a question mark at quarterback. You really think he's going to go out there and beat the Super Bowl champions?
I think I want to see what he can do.
Real talk.
No, real talk. I want to like they're doing. I'm doing the same thing. I'm taking this one game at a time, and I have people in the chat now that are saying like, with the remaining 9 games, 3 losses are possible. The Chargers, I think we get one back. We should have had that game against them in week 4, but the rest of them right now, as it stands, are winnable. Like look at Minnesota. They don't have a quarterback now. Cousins is done. They just traded for Jay Dobbs, the kid from Arizona. I'm not high on him. Man. I'm not high on that kid. The Colts, they lost their rookie in Anthony Richardson for the season and have Uncle Rico. I'm not sold right now, man. I'm not sold. And then you had the Broncos. I know you said the Broncos. I know you said the Broncos turned it around and beat the Chiefs this past weekend. Again, any given Sunday, but the Broncos have yet to beat the Las Vegas Raiders since they relocated in 2020. Like
Hammer, it's a touchdown league, bro. From week to week, it's a touchdown league. You go back and look through the scores every game. Touchdown or less decides every game now in the NFL.
You're right.
I'm not trying to piss on anybody's campfire, but the Raiders winning 6 of 9 after they won 3 of 8, making a quarterback change, not to an experienced veteran, but to an untested kid with an untested head coach. He says all the right things. Jeff Saturday was fire and brimstone when he came in with the Colts.
And we lost, and we lost to them last season. We lost to them in his coaching debut last season. Another thing that adds up to the horrible resume that is Josh McDaniels.
And Jeff is back on TV and loving it now, man. So, I mean, there's right now being objective about this.
Yeah.
There's just way too many question marks and not enough time to sort this whole thing out. To me.
I've said it, and right now I'll say it again, like 3 words, why not us? But at the same time, that rallying cry that I shouted out from the top 2 years ago is back, and that rally cry is fuck your adversity. I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys do. Like I said, I will take it 1 week at a time, but this Sunday, this is the first test this Sunday against your New York Football Giants, and
Don't
I
lose to
can't
the
wait.
Giants, bro.
I can't
Don't
wait.
lose to the Giants. That sad sack 2-6 team at home. Don't you dare lose to the Giants.
I'm telling you now, like, I think that especially those that are in the chat right now, and I appreciate all y'all that are in here right now. Like, I think we're gonna see something a little bit more different in Allegiant Stadium this Sunday. I think we are going to see a hell of a lot more silver and black than we did these first few games. I was in Allegiant. You guys know that. I was there for the Steelers game, and it was 80-20 of those ugly yellow towels. And I wanted to snatch one out of one of those fans' hands and just throw it into the field.
Towel.
But I think we're going to see a hell of a lot more of silver and black throughout that stadium this coming weekend and moving forward, most definitely.
I always think about my old friend Herman Edwards. And Herm always talks about when you come into the opposing stadium, just got to survive that first 5 minutes. Because that's where it's all going to happen.
Right.
New coach, new quarterback. Oh, yeah. Now here come the Giants. Boo. But then they start smacking you around, or they don't succumb to the black hole, which I don't know if it's moved to Vegas yet.
I sat in a small section. I sat in a small section of it when I was there for that home opener. I had
what I'm talking about.
I had Rilla and a couple of others. I got to see Big Unk Violator after the game. Always a pleasure seeing him, and I hope to see him in January as well. But like I said, I think with this change of the guard now, a lot of people weren't on board with this whole thing with Josh McDaniels. I was one of the few that said, hey, people learn through life lessons, and maybe things would change. Maybe things would be different for him. Things would be for the better. And clearly I was wrong. I gave him up until the early first half of this season was like, I'm done. And going into this season, I predicted a 10-7, maybe a 9-8 team at best. And then after the first 3 weeks, I was like, you know what? Screw evaluating the first 4 games of the regular season. You're looking at a 4-13, 5-12 team if they didn't turn it around and get their shit together.
I mean, 9-8 is still possible. Not probable, but it's still possible. But again, like I said, don't lose to the Giants on Sunday.
We won't.
Don't do it.
We won't. I'm not giving any. I'm not giving any score predictions. But
Giants are going to come in there, and they're going to come in there feeling totally disrespected. If Daniel Jones can stay upright, if the O-line can protect him, and he's not running for his life, might be a day where you might crawl into a black hole.
I'm hoping Tyree contains on his side. Let Max feast. Let Max do what he does best. I do want to see more blitzing, different blitzing packages. I do think that you're gonna see a different defense this coming Sunday, and I won't be surprised if Danny Dimes doesn't get knocked around a handful of times throughout that game, and maybe sacked at least 4, maybe 5 times throughout the game.
Wow. Even with both of his offensive tackles coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, we'll see.
We will.
We'll see. It's going to be an interesting game.
We're going to take this call. It's the last one of the night, because I was definitely just about to wrap it up, but we'll take this call.
Come on, caller, where you at?
We got GA Patriot from Georgia in the vault. Sound off, bro.
What's going on, Hammer? How you doing, Bill?
What's up?
So Bill, here's the thing. You're speaking truth and you're saying things that make sense, but Raider Nation's been so dedicated for months and months, and we've we finally got Daniels, and we're all super excited. None of us want to hear the truth. We want to hear you say that we got a chance, man. we don't want to hear the reason.
I got people back here in New York that don't want me saying that. I'm not trying
I appreciate your points, though, man. It's a great show.
Thank you. I'm not trying to appease either side, and somebody they called me a diehard Giant fan. I'm not a diehard Giant fan. I'm not a diehard any fan. I'm at the point in my life now where I'm really objective about most things. I'd love to see New York teams win. I'm not thrilled about the New York Knicks. I'm clear on what the Giants situation is. The New York Jets right now are interesting. Baseball is like a million miles away, so I'm not even going there. But I try to be as real as I can about these situations. I don't sit here screaming at the TV anymore. Them days are gone, man. I can just sit and be analytical about a game. And the numbers are just 30th in points, 31st in yards, 30th in rushing yards allowed. The Giants are getting back their offensive line. They're getting back their number one quarterback. Their running back is just coming off of his best game of the year. And you cannot argue that the Giant defense, after what they did to the Commanders and what they did to the Jets last Sunday, you can't argue that their defense is not getting better. And you throw in the fact that now it's the first dance for the head coach, it's the first dance for the OC, and it's the first start for the rookie quarterback.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks, right? But question mark can go either way, right?
Oh, yeah, it's a touchdown lead. Strange things can happen.
Hey,
strange things can happen.
What about this, though? What about Raiders defense holding the Lions to 1 out of 5 in the red?
Which was pretty impressive, and they did it in Detroit.
The Raiders defense has made some strides that are going kind of under the radar. I mean, they've really improved in the last several weeks.
But they just fired everybody. So what kind of strides have they made if they just fired everybody? They're looking to make strides with the new people.
They didn't fire anybody on the defensive side.
Not yet.
I mean, last week the defense was really our only scoring. So the defense is step it up. So I mean, I think that this is gonna be my first game I've gotten to go to Allegiant Stadium. I'm flying to Vegas Saturday, so
all right.
I'm looking to see two really good defenses. And see, I can do, like you said, I can be very objective. I can watch baseball, I can watch football, I can be very objective and realistic about everything, except the Raiders. For some reason, I've just never been able to. I guess I'm just a diehard Raider fan. I have been since the late 70s.
I've
watched a lot of bad games and still had hope the next week,
I really think that there is still, even though Mark Davis has made the moves that he made, and I get it, he's trying to send a bigger signal to the organization and to the city of Las Vegas for that matter. But I still think that the Raiders and Vegas are still in their honeymoon phase. I really do.
Yeah.
Vegas is just happy to be in the mix, and that they have one of the most iconic and storied franchises in the history of the National Football League. Just makes the arrangement that much nicer. So I mean,
we've got to figure out a way to put a good product on the field.
Exactly. And there's no rush in the mind of the Raider fan to do that right now. Not those in Las Vegas. Maybe Raider fans like yourself in Georgia, like Hammer, who's back here, and, those who have been in it for the long haul. I get their urgency, but I don't think that there's that same urgency in the city, at least from regarding the fan base from Las Vegas.
Yeah, the locals, they're just happy to have a team. They're happy to have games to go to.
Yeah.
Yep. And a brand new stadium too. And the Super Bowl is coming there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see what happens after the Super Bowl is played. Let's see how real it gets for the Raiders. Let's see what that coaching search is going to be like. Are they going to miss Are they going to miss it again? Because they had a guy last time. But then they did their coaching search and signed Mr. Attractive.
I wouldn't mind Rex Ryan though, but if Pierce does a solid job and wins at least 5 games, I wouldn't mind signing him for like another 3 years and seeing what he can do with this team on a full season.
So 5 out of 9, one game over 500.
If he does,
It'll be better. It'll be better than what we had last season, finishing 6-11.
I mean, if he comes in the middle of the season and has pieced together a roster and make something out, channel out of shit and is able to win 5 games, saying something, right? After the trade deadline, can't really bring anybody in. Guy has to work with what he got, and is able to put together a better record in the second half of the season than the first coach had in the first half of the season, then that's saying something. I think that's a success.
Well, it's not a nightmare roster. You got some interesting players there.
No, it's not. I mean, we're one Van Roten away from having a pretty decent offensive line.
So are a lot of teams in this league.
GA, we're gonna wrap it up, bro.
I will tell you something, Bill. I agree. I agree 100% with one thing you said. We better not lose to the Giants. I'm out. You guys have a good evening. Thanks, Joe.
Take care, GA.
Yeah.
All right. Before we wrap it up, we're going to do a quick injury report. We do have it up from today's practices, and this is the injury report for both teams. For the Raiders, Daniel Carlson with the right groin, he was limited. Max Crosby, knee, ankle, limited, but that's been a weekly thing anyways. Divine Diablo, ankle, did not participate, so he's got one more day, and we'll find out his ultimate game status. Nate Hobbs, limited with the ankle. He did play a little bit this past Monday night. Jakob Johnson, we saw him get his bell rung. He's in concussion protocol. He didn't participate. Luke Masterson, another one in concussion protocol, has not participated. Thayer Mumford, neck, he didn't participate, so don't be surprised if we see Illuminor back at right tackle this weekend. Robert Spillane, hand, he didn't participate yesterday, but he was limited today. Brandon Bolden was not listed yesterday, but was limited today as he was listed with a knee injury. For the New York Giants, Tyrod Taylor, backup quarterback, ribs, he didn't participate the last 2 days. Darren Waller, hamstring, he's probably going to be going on IR soon. Saquon Barkley, ankle limited. Graham Gano, left knee limited. Evan Neal, ankle limited. Wan'Dale Robinson, knee limited. Kayvon Thibodeau, back limited. Andrew Thomas, hamstring limited. Daniel Jones, neck, was a full participant the last 2 days. Dexter Lawrence, who wasn't on the list yesterday, it's not important. It's non-injury related rest, so you should be good to go as well on Sunday.
That's just like limited.
Yeah.
All those limited guys are playing.
Yeah.
They're playing.
Bill, I want to thank you again being a guest, and I've always told you you're more than welcome to come on anytime. Maybe if you're up for it next week, we do a little Jets talk, as we got to play the New York Jets next Sunday night.
Oh boy, national TV.
Again, we got too many national. We got a whole bunch of national TV games, and we're sitting at 3-5.
Just don't embarrass yourself on national TV. That's it. Don't do like the Giants did on national TV against Seattle and against Dallas. And I had the honor of watching both of those games from a hospital bed.
All right. Let me minimize this real quickly. Anything you want to say to the nation before we head out?
Go Big Blue.
Oh God! Can before we wrap it up one time? Can I get it? Can I get a Canton?
Oh, absolutely. Content.
Let me minimize this real quick and close this out. There There it is. All right, guys. Our matchup preview is complete. I want to thank each and every single one of y'all that pulled on up tonight. And I know there's a lot of you, well, not you guys, but a lot of the viewers that did not get a chance to watch us tonight. So those in the chat, spread the word, share the link, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. This is definitely some real good quality Raiders content. On your way out, if you haven't already, break them thumbs, hammer that sub, smash the bell to stay up to date with all your Raiders news, rumors, updates, live streams, fantasy, and more in the house that Hammer built by the nation for the nation, Raider Nation News Today. We will be back on Sunday. The Shore Takeover, myself, Graf, Wasted, Big Mike, Mount Shieldmore taking over the Jersey Shore, Bar A, Lake Como, New Jersey for the Giants-Raiders game. Continue to stay safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. COVID is on the rise. Remember to wash your hands and your asses. And as always, win, lose, or tie, Raider Nation till I die. Till next time, y'all. And of course, on my New York, peace, love, and positivity. We out.
Yeah.